Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and if it's September, it must be time for Tim Hankewich to come back from Orchestra Iowa as we begin a new symphony season, and not just a symphony season, but one that you all have been, well, it's 100 years in the making.
Exactly right. I mean, it doesn't happen every day, obviously, and we look great for 100. Yeah, this is going to be a year-long birthday party starting with Brucemore Orchestra, so I'm really excited about it. And you're right, we've been planning this season for several years now. So now that it's here, I have the sort of the pre-game jitters and the butterflies to get this thing going, but it's going to be a great season.
Yeah, I know that at Brucemore Orchestra, I know there's going to be, those who haven't, looked at the brochure or something like that are going to see some information, but so many highlights, and we haven't mentioned a couple of those as we go along, but let's start with Brucemore Orchestra. So what did you pick to kick off this 100 season with?
It's getting harder and harder, frankly, to program for Brucemore Orchestra. I mean, to keep it fresh, what's going to be next? And as I was grappling with this a year and a half ago, sadly, Stephen Sondheim passed away. Now, the sad truth is that a composer is never more popular than when they pass away, unfortunately. And so there is a lot of buzz about his music. And for good reason. I mean, I think he is certainly one of the last great Broadway composers who can actually connect the dots to Broadway's golden age. I mean, here's a guy who apprenticed under Oscar Hammerstein and wrote the lyrics for West Side Story under Bernstein. And so you can actually make this lineage from Gershwin to Rodgers and Hammerstein to Bernstein to Sondheim. So, I mean, he's a giant. And so not to overlook that would have been sort of musical malfeasance. So where are we going to do that in a season? Well, because last year our Oscar and Hammerstein program did so well, I thought, well, let's keep on that vibe and let's do a tribute to the music of Stephen Sondheim. And it was kind of serendipitous because right around the time we were toying with that idea, Melissa Errico reached out, and Melissa Errico is like the first disciple of Stephen Sondheim. You would have probably seen her on all the morning talk shows as soon as he passed away. I mean, she is out in the forefront.
She was a close friend of his.
Close friend. And she said, hey, I can cut through the red tape of licensing, and I've got this army of arrangers, because what people don't understand, you just don't pick off the music off the rack. You've got to get permission for it, you've got to pay for it, and then it's got to be tailored like a suit to the person who's singing. And she had all these arrangers, many of whom worked for Barbra Streisand, and said, hey, I'm putting this show together. Can we beta test it in Iowa? Because the New York Philharmonic has picked it up and some other programs have picked it up. And this has got the hallmarks that in a couple of years I wouldn't be surprised if you see it as a PBS special. And it's being beta tested here. And I thought, what a great opportunity for Brucemore. I mean, the setting is perfect. The audience is perfect. The music, the night, I mean, it just fit. And so we pulled the trigger on this, and now with just a couple days left, now we're gonna see, and it's really fantastic.
Well, and we need to talk specifically about where the show is going, but let's pick that apart for just a minute, because that has to make you and Jeff and everybody at Orchestra Iowa feel pretty good that when someone is thinking, oh, I've got a cool concept for a show, but I've got to try it out. I got to try it out someplace, but I need it to be a really good orchestra with a great audience and a place with good community support. Otherwise, it's pointless. And Cedar Rapids,
why
that's
not?
Where we should go.
Hey, and the fact that we've been through this before several times. I mean, we in partnership with Hansher, we've done a couple in-house produced programs like this as well. And also for our Christmas programs, for example. I know what it's like to have to go through the licensing process and how difficult and time-consuming it is to write arrangements. And the fact that she could cut through that red tape like a hot knife through butter, I mean, that is huge, because if we just decided to do a tribute to Sondheim on our own, we wouldn't have gotten past a phone call because it's just too big of a task. So I'm just absolutely thrilled that we can sort of beat our chest with a little bit of pride saying, hey, you heard it here first.
And it's not like a regular Masterworks series.
Correct.
Because you don't have to, I mean, you have to you have to buy the scores when you do a Beethoven or something like that, but it's not like you have to deal with Beethoven's people.
Yeah, his management. Yeah, they're as dead and deaf as he is right now. Yeah, I think that's, if you pull back the curtain, so to speak, on the entertainment industry, there is a whole layer of red tape under licensing and copyright and arranging that is just an absolute nightmare. So the fact that we were able to just deliver this to the stage like we have, it's fantastic, and it's the perfect way to launch our 100th birthday.
So we've talked a lot about stuff in the background, but now let's talk a little bit about the show. What numbers, what musicals, what moments are we going to be spotlighting?
Right, it's a kind of an overview of everything, including music from musicals that he wrote the lyrics for. He wrote the lyrics to the musical Gypsy. He wrote the lyrics to West Side Story, so we're going to have a little bit of that in there. He wrote film music to Dick Tracy, so music from that is also going to be in the program. And then, of course, an overview of some of his greatest hits, like Send in the Clowns. But there are music from his musicals, Into the Woods and A Little Night Music, and Anyone Can Whistle, Sweeney Todd. It's sort of just a smattering of all his greatest hits. But what I find so amazing about Sondheim, and it shouldn't surprise me because he was tutored and mentored by Oscar Hammerstein. His real superpower is the force of his lyrics. And Oscar Hammerstein basically told him, you start with the words, and the words are everything, and then you wrap the music around it. And I think that's clearly where Sondheim has excelled, and I think where he takes off where people like Oscar Hammerstein and others left off is that I think early Broadway, the plots are a little bit more escapism. I mean, I'm way over exaggerating, but it's usually boy meets girl, a little bit of drama, boy gets girl, or vice versa. No letters, because there's a lot of what about this, what about that. But that's a really general idea. But when you get to Stephen Sondheim, his lyrics are about the complexities of life, how sometimes there isn't a happy ending, or adult relationships can be complicated, and there is doubt in life. And so he likes to write about the cracks in life, and I think that's where he excels and has taken the art form to the next level.
Talking with Tim Hankewich about Brucemore Orchestra coming up Saturday night, the 17th of September. The nice thing is tickets still available. The capacity of Brucemore is a little bit bigger than the Paramount.
That's a beautiful thing. I mean, the lawn is so huge. We usually get around 3,000 people. I'm expecting that again.
Weather looks perfect.
Weather looks fabulous. Bring your cell phone, because we've now have this tradition of people turning on their cell phones at the very end. And also to hear one of the premier cabaret artists and Broadway artists of her time, and Melissa Errico.
And we should, for our audience, we should mention her pianist as well,
right?
Randy Waldman, who that is a name that should be familiar. He's released. He's been a jazz sideman for years. He's released several albums on his own. Barbra Streisand's pianist, I think, for the longest time, too.
Yes, very shy guy, actually. Yeah.
But he's been everywhere and done everything.
But a giant of a talent. Yeah, so, I mean, I guess it's sometimes inside baseball because you and I know, and the average person might not, but there's some legends on stage playing.
Yeah.
And so that'll be great to be able to share our orchestra with them.
And to be able to have someone on stage. I mean, it's one thing to do a tribute to an artist, but to be able to put somebody on stage who knew them and I'm sure can tell a couple of stories.
Yeah. That's where a person, a conductor has to check their ego a lot of the times, know who you're talking to. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to tell this guy much. So it'll be a whole lot of fun, and I look forward to it greatly.
And Melissa's relationship with Sondheim should be grist for a lot of, listen carefully in between the songs, because you're going to probably hear some things that are not on the Wikipedia page.
Right. She has been nicknamed the Jessica Rabbit with a PhD when it comes to Sondheim. I mean, they were very tight and had a very long and fruitful relationship. And so, some of the behind the scenes and even some of the, some of these lyrics that are telling you that can be vague or in the gray areas of the complexities of life. She's also, nailed his feet to the floor by saying, "What did he really mean by this lyric?" And so she's able to give a little extra insight that most people wouldn't know about.
We've talked a lot about the words, but I also know that the music's of
fabulous.
Sondheim is fabulous and also not easy.
It's not easy, but what I love about it, it still comes from the era of acoustical music. Over the years, when you go to a Broadway play, the pit bands got smaller and smaller and smaller. Back in the 1930s, you'd have an orchestra of 40 in the pit, and now if you go to Hamilton, you've got 5. And so Sondheim's music and productions are still in that era of a more voluptuous orchestra in the pit, and so it's great, and it's a great match for orchestras to play this music.
It's Brucemore Orchestra, the music of Stephen Sondheim, coming up Saturday night, September 17th. Tickets at the Orchestra Iowa website, which is
orchestraiowa.org or artsiowa.com, or you can call a person and at the box office at 1-800-369-TUNE.
Well, we got so involved in talking about Sondheim and music licensing and things like that. We didn't get to the rest of the season, but that's okay because you're going to come back in a couple of weeks and talk about the first Masterworks concert of the year, and we're going to be off to the races in a memorable 100th season.
We're going to have plenty to talk about. Thank you.
Tim Hankewich from Orchestra Iowa. Again, orchestraiowa.org. Thanks, Tim.
Cheers.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio many weekdays at 10:20, or download the podcast, watch or listen on your own schedule at kcck.culture, or however you get your podcasts. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.